body, and learning the way the spirit soul, then having a spiritual practice to back it up. Like you're all here today, we're discussing about spiritual life, we're doing some action to back it up. But if you don't have any practical, tangible spiritual life, then what's the point of learning? Because if you really learned you're the soul, you will invest it. I don't struggle. I struggle a lot too. But I know through the struggles that this is the nature of the world. Why blame anybody? Why blame the instruments of our karma? What am I going to get out of it? Really, I need to make advancement. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, there will be problems. So I'm going to make advancement. I feel like if I could just get what I, wanted, if I could just let the other person feel what I felt, then it will all be okay. Sometimes people say that to me, if my parents just understood, their parents just understood, if they just acknowledged the wrong they did, we'll be okay. So I often ask this question, I was like, okay, so you visualize this person who wronged you, right? You just really visualize it in your mind's eye. And I just want you to think about, what is it that you would want to happen to this person for you to completely let go of this thing? Just really would you want coal to fall on them, or what do you want to happen? You start to just visualize it. And then how would that make you feel? And will you then be able to go on, move on? And this is the tricky part, that it's not going to help us move on. That doesn't help us move on. Neither do you know what you want to happen to that person, because it's not like you want any harm coming to them. So it's a feeling that we hold on to. And I actually try to explain, if you want to give charity, try to give money, great. Try to give someone resources, Jackie got this black book, which is really nice. So try to give resources, that's great. But what you don't want to waste or give away is time. It's very precious. It's your time. It's your energy. And when we kind of stick to this feeling of revenge, it pollutes our consciousness. It actually takes over our entire consciousness. And it manifests itself as a loss of time. Many times people will encourage you, just go ahead, get your, revenge. But then what happens? Oh, you feel like, I got what I got, the revenge I need, and then what? But how does that help us move on? That's it. It's just understand that there's an energy that we have, which is limited. We don't have an unlimited supply. Just like the earth doesn't have unlimited resources for us to use and waste, right? We think there's unlimited resources. We think there's an unlimited dump yard on this planet. You can keep creating waste and we'll just get consumed. None of that is true. Similarly, we don't have unlimited energy. Limited energy, and when we start to invest it in revenge, the actual harm to that person doesn't end it for us. Our life becomes so absorbed in that person. Actually, if you look at it from a karmic point of view, you're so absorbed in this revenge. So what does your consciousness become? What qualities do you develop? You develop the qualities of the person you're meditating on. You develop the consciousness of the person you're meditating on. Just like it's very tricky. You think they're bad, they're bad, they're bad, they're bad, they're bad. And in the process, everything that they're bad, you think about that and you develop that quality. Because that's what you're thinking about, that's what you'll develop. So it's very tricky. And karmically speaking, if you cultivate that consciousness all your life, then what happens at the end of your life? You're thinking about that person you want to get revenge from. You won't think of something brand new, you'll think of the same things you've been thinking about. And then what happens? You end up getting a body or a space like that. So it's a very big trap, actually. We want to break free from them. Another word for revenge is danda, or punishment, So the Srimad Bhagavatam explains, danda nyasam paramam danam. It describes charity, giving something charity. Danda nyasam, where a punishment is deserved, but you let it go. You're able to let go of it, you let go the trouble or the suffering to somebody else. That's the greatest charity. What is the point of being charitable, giving all these things, but you can't give up your anger? to this person. So dandanyasam paramam dhyanam. If you can give it up, that's the biggest kind of. And then what's the strategy? How do you deal with it? I was looking up what is the opposite word for revenge. And interestingly, I found forgiveness, which a part of which is give. Forgive has a give in it, right? So what is it the best thing that we can give? Dandanyasam. Give up your desire for danda, to punish somebody, give them trouble, or like, just give it up. Dandanyasam, just give it up. Paramam dana, that's the best kind of charity. If you give something, give forgiveness. And what is a great example of it? I mean, if you think of somebody troubling you, see Jesus Christ was a young person, body-wise, he was a very young person. And you see like people poking nails into his hands, into his head, into his feet. It is such a painful thing. Not only that, he's a respectable person, the most respectable personality. And he's been disrespected, paraded through the marketplace with thieves and wolves, and like, it's so humiliating. It's so, imagine going through that. And that torture, that pain. How do you take revenge in a situation like that? And what's his response to that? Forgive them, Lord, for they don't know.
For they have sinned.
For?
For they have sinned.
Right. But what is his thing? Forgive them.
Forgive them.
Why is he saying that? Because there is awareness of the degree of ignorance people have. It is foolish acts are born out of ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of who we are. Ignorance of our relationship with other beings. Ignorance of our relationship with the Supreme. When we don't know relational positioning, it's like without your GPS, you don't know how to get somewhere, right? When we don't have the GPS of life, then we make these kind of decisions. But one who can see everything for what it is, they're like, forgive the ignorance. Just like James gave us a good example, right? Like, you would rebel and you would go, you'd come back, and then mom would be like, oh, welcome back. She could be like, you abandoned me, you left, I did so much for you, but you didn't. She's like, oh, welcome back.
There's some of that too, I didn't add that in there.
But you were always welcome back, right?
Yeah.
You're always. The point I'm trying to make is, or like a little kid goes to them, I hate you, mommy, you make me have this. Anyone done that before? I hate you for doing this to me. You're making me go to school. I totally hate you. Da, da, da. What does the mother do?
Make you do it anyway.
Huh? You gotta go anyway, and she loves you anyways. Anyways, this meal for you. When you come home, she's going to pick you up, right? So, why is that? Because the mother knows your relationship with her. She knows you're a child. You don't know any better, right? And she knows you're completely dependent on her, and she's aware of the relationship. She's aware of your position. She's aware of your mentality. But complete knowledge, she reacts differently from the child. But if the mother is ignorant, fool, what would you have to do? She'll be yelling and screaming at the child is yelling and screaming back. It's like two children fighting with each other, pointless, right? So when we live in this world, we're also like that. We're also like ignorant of our real position. When we are ignorant of our real position, we get caught up in temporary things. Temporary things like, I gotta get revenge. For what? From whom? What do you achieve out of that? You might be like this close to your revenge, and suddenly there's a tsunami and you're finished. See? So, who are you getting revenge from? What do you achieve after you've achieved your revenge? Like, what is the point of all this? We come into the world with nothing. We leave the world with nothing. And in between that, we make life so complicated. What is the point of it? Why not use our time, energy, going back to my original point, real intelligence is not waste your time. Why not use our time and energy to identify the real abuser, the real person who's victimizing us? The real victimization in this world is material energy. The ignorance that sweeps our consciousness, makes us think we're the body, makes us think we're the mind. We relate so closely with the mind. Everything the mind says is true. We're such a mercy of the mind. So that's real, that's a real victimization. You're a free spirit soul. You're deathless. You're full of knowledge, full of happiness. Still, you have to buy so many things to become happy. How sad is that? That's real victimization. So revenge has its place, but if you really want to use revenge, use it to fight material existence. That's the real victimization we suffer from. Parents are there, they're gone. Some people are orphans. Some people want children, they don't have them. There's all kind of mixes in this world, right? All temporary realities. We survived it. Now we are here with whatever body and minds we have. Now how do we move forward from here? Our move forward has nothing to do with those persons and where they're at. They will remain where they're at. That's their choice. But it's your choice. I think one of you guys said that I think you said that I was at her frequency or something. I was trying to match her, right? When we try to match someone, that's when we get stuck. My older brother, he had said one time to me, he said in the army they teach them that never argue with an idiot. Because first they will bring them down to their level by arguing with you, and then they'll beat you at it because they're a bigger idiot than you. It's like, that's good logic. I'm just gonna keep this one in my mind. But that's what revenge is like. You argue, they're just so great at it. They flourish, they thrive at idiocy. So unless you're gonna settle down in that level and forever live there, try to prove to them that you're a better idiot than they are. There's really no point to it. So Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains that there's a verse in it. He says, Titiksha dukkha samrishta. Titiksha, one of the other words as opposite of forgiveness, revenge, is tolerance. Titiksha in Sanskrit. Titiksha dukkha samrishta. What it means is, tolerance means the ability to tolerate or accept whatever troubles that come to you without your asking for them. What is the point of tolerating in the discharge of your spiritual duties? Not just randomly, but like in the discharge of your spiritual. So if you want to spiritually progress and you're having all these impediments, you simply tolerate. The goal is spiritual advancement. The goal is not to settle all these problems in this world. The material world is padam hivat padam. There's danger at every step, so how are you going to solve it? So the goal is to actually just let them come, or we'll tolerate them, because our goal is spiritual advancement. So in the discharge of our spiritual duties, in that context, we are able to tolerate. In that context, we are able to. Jesus was remembering the Father in heaven, so he can tolerate. But if you're on the material, if you're going to live on that level, you said, like, being at that person's level, then you can't tolerate. Then it's like, how could you do this? I gotta settle it down. But if we have a higher goal, we can tolerate. Like if you have to go for an interview and there's a fight going on the street, will you stop and like get into it and try to settle it? No, you'll go for the interview because you gotta go for the interview. Same way, if we know where we're going, what our purpose in this world, why did we come to this world in the first place? Does anyone have a good answer for that one?
I thought it was just to learn.
Learn what?
Learn. It's like, again, it's with our souls. So I'm presuming that our souls are a continuous thing that's been here before, and that the body is just a vessel. So the soul has learned something, whatever it is, life, and then obviously we die. So then we're given I presume we're given a task to do, and whether you fulfill it or not, if you haven't, then it's like the soul continues. If you try and remember what you've come to do, so it's a bit like the deja vu thing, that you're trying to fulfill what you did, and then you remember, then you continue, whether you're trying to help other people or whatever the task or purpose you have in life. Does that make sense?
They don't just use express. No, you're right. Like the soul is, the purpose is to learn. That is true. There is truth to it, but there's a little bit more.
Okay.
Is that the question of learning what? Like, are you learning a trade skill? Are you learning? What are you learning? And when you learn, what is the result of that learning? Right? When like if you learn something and you don't act on it, like if you you learn that there's fire in the room and you don't act on it, then you've not really learned it. So real learning means learning that I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, everything related to the body and mind is not eternal. I'm something else. So that's learning. But when you learn that, and you keep doing this, like you said, what did you say? Holiday Christian, you said? What's the word you used? Something like that, you said, right? See, if I'm just doing it and then there's no change in my life, then what's the point of it? So we want a change in our life. That's the real purpose of learning. So learning how we're not the body, and learning that we're the spirit soul, then having a spiritual practice to back it up. Like you're all here today, we're discussing about spiritual life, we're doing some action to back it up. But if you don't have any practical, tangible spiritual life, then what's the point of learning? Because if you really learned you're the soul, you will invest in. I actually had this realization. I said, when we realize that we have a disease, like someone says you have this and this disease, immediately you go to the doctor, right? Immediately, even if you don't have insurance, you're willing to pay as much as it takes to get rid of the disease, right? You're ready to pay for it, whatever it takes. Because there is a disease. You know that there is a disease. But if I said to you the environment has a lot of pollutants in it, you're not so serious about detoxing. But sometimes you might detox. Yeah, it's true, but the faith is a bit weak. But if I say the material exists, that cancer is not the disease, environmental pollution is not the disease, they are all symptoms of the disease. The real disease is material existence. Now you're not convinced about that disease. You're not convinced. You're like, I'm pretty good. I have my partner, I have my home, I have my money, and I don't know, it doesn't feel like a disease. So unless you're convinced that real disease is material existence and you're a pure spirit soul, you won't invest in it. You hesitate to give $5 for Bhagavad Gita. You see? Why? But you wouldn't hesitate to give $500 for, like, I don't know, some drug or some vaccination that you must have, right? Because you are convinced that this is a disease I have. And you're willing to give it all because my health, number one, right? Because your idea of yourself is a body. So my health, number one. But when your idea of yourself is a soul, then you're like, my spiritual health, number one. One of my teachers, I was just visiting him yesterday, and he had a knee replacement surgery. He's in extreme pain. So I went there to see him right after his surgery, and he told me to sit down and read. So I'm like reading the Bhagavad Gita to him because he's in so much pain he can't do anything. So I'm reading, and he's like giving me commentaries of it, talking about it. I was just thinking like, oh, wow. It's like in this state, someone's just got his knees cut off, is talking about spiritual life and giving me so much nice points and realizations. So where is it coming from? It's coming from a lifetime of practice. It takes endeavor to cultivate someone like that. And this isn't someone who just stayed in the Himalayas. It's someone who lived in Atlanta, grew up here, had a job, raised kids, did everything, but invested in their spiritual life throughout as a priority, because there's awareness that I'm more than the body. When you think you're the body and only body, then you make decisions like that, like revenge, investment. So see what are real diseases. And it just like the mother, because she's more educated about the whole situation, can ignore the child's complaining. Similarly, as persons, when we are more educated about our spiritual existence, our spiritual duties, then we are able to rise above it. It's not that I don't struggle. I struggle a lot too. But I know through the struggles that this is the nature of the world. Why blame anybody? Why blame the instruments of our karma? What am I going to get out of it? Really, I need to make advancement. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, there will be problems. So I'm going to make advancement. And then I have to figure out how to make that advancement, how to get the right association, how to move up. Right? So that's how you move past things. But if you don't have that higher purpose, then you can't move past it. And then you can't mentally adjust your way out of these deadlocks. You need a higher purpose. So I'll stop there. Maybe you guys have some thoughts, comments, questions, reflections, anything. Nothing's wrong. Everything's right.
I like how you mentioned calling it a disease. It kind of reminded me of as a person I read, a philosopher in Stoicism. He talks about himself, and he says, I'm not like perfect, right? Or you mentioned like you go through the same things. He was like, I am the patient right next to you. We both go through sickness. And I think that is very, it all starts with that awareness. And it's hard to be aware, but then, like you say, it's all through your actions. There are a lot of people who know things, but if you don't do anything with it, it's just...
Then you don't know. You don't know. Healer, heal thyself. You have to heal, yeah. You don't, this is a yoga, one of the essential yoga tenets. To know means to act. If you don't act, you don't know. And that's why you have to constantly read. Because another thing that happens is, along with knowing and becoming aware, is forgetfulness. Maya, or material energy, has two flavors. One is it covers your eyes. You forget, and then pushes you over. Two flavors. Covering your eyes and pushes you, blinds you first, and first you stop seeing things for what they are. And then it trips you over. So first we have to know. If we have no knowledge, we can't take, unless the mother knows she's the mother. This is a child, he's just 5 years old, he has no brain, he's like a baby, just doing silly things. You can't take what they're saying seriously. You can't take the statement of a 5-year-old like you would take that of a 20-year-old. The mother has to know that. If there's no knowledge of that, she will act in really crazy ways. And we see that in the world. I'm not just picking a mother's, father's, whoever, brothers, sisters, whatever. Just giving an example, it's easy to relate to. It's a very nice point. Appreciate you saying that. Any other thoughts you have? Anybody, James, any thoughts from you?
How about a question? So, say certain situation happens, just hypothetically. And yes, like how you were saying, it's to know something's to act on it. And I guess to really know something, I mean, yes, to act on it, but say like, situation happens and I guess fight or flight kind of kicks in. So you're kind of acting on old mental patterns and stuff like that. So would you say in that situation you don't really know, but like is kind of like you act on an old mental pattern, and then in hindsight you look back at it, you're like, oh man, I messed up, That's kind of like,
it's such a real situation. What you're describing is such a real situation that although we have higher knowledge, we still have a material body. We still have our traumas. We live in a post-traumatic kind of world. We have our traumas, we have our baggage, we have our flight patterns, right? And then we're put in a situation, and that same reaction kicks in, and it's real. It is real. It's not like people are crazy or something. It's just we have been put in difficult situations and not had proper advice in those situations, so we've developed patterns and behaviors, and we can't keep acting it. Actually, chanting of Hare Krishna is enough for everything, but we're not chanting purely. We're still in a hospital process. We're like still recovering. We're in recovery. So recovery means you're a little here, you're a little there. So while we're recovering, we need the right tools to deal with our mental, psychophysical nature. So our mental issues, our flight patterns, and all of those things. We need actual tools to deal with it. If we were chanting purely, no problem. We can chant Hare Krishna, all problems are gone. We can read the Bhagavad Gita. But we're not there yet. We've just started. Class 1 is not the same as PhD, right? He's studying supply chain management. I might know a few lines about supply chain. I know what it is, but he surely has more depth of knowledge than I have, right? So practitioners or inspiring transcendentalists, we should keep that in mind. Both have to go hand in hand. And I think my hope here, and I can't control the world, right? I can only control the community. Not control, but I can only influence the community that we're trying to build. My hope here is to create an environment of trust. That at least there's one person in the room that you're starting to build some sort of a relationship with that you can trust. It starts from speaking openly, honestly about what we are facing, how I am reacting, just being very transparent. Like, I cannot overemphasize the need for honesty. If we are not honest, like spirituality and all of that stuff, it's like something you put on as a cloak. There's no reality to it. It's just like, when you were sharing what you were feeling for your father, just so honest, right? We have to be honest like that. But what happens is when we start practicing spiritual life, some sort of spiritual pride that starts to creep in, that I am advanced. I'm a little like something. I better have my act together. If I tell too many people how bad my thoughts are, then they'll judge me. More and more in communities it's like that, and it shouldn't be like that. And this is not naturally going to happen. We have to put in effort to make it like that. You have to put in the effort to speak your truth, and the other persons have to put their effort to not judge at that time. That's a real community. But this judgment, how can we actually progress? It's just like we're sitting, if we can't understand each other and understand, like if we think that we're too pure, it's such a thing. So when it happens, when you see it happening, and by obviously you're doing something right, that you're able to see that there's a flight reaction. Just recognize that that's a blessing of the Lord. Because it could be that you don't see it. And you just see that it's everyone else's problem. The fact that you can see that you're reacting by some old pattern, could be fight, flight, or could be some other pattern, whatever. The fact that you can see it, that means you're seeing it's your mind, it's not you. Because those reactions are coming from the mind. So you're able to see it. Oh, this is my old pattern, I'm doing it again. That means you're seeing you're not that pattern. That means you made some advancement. And then do the next step, be human. Share with somebody who you know. Talk about it. Don't keep it inside. Remember what I said Maya does, closes your eyes, covers your, isolates you. And one of the biggest things it does is don't tell anybody. Only me and you. Only my mind, only me and you, which means mind and you. So that they can have you captive. But the mind's not you. You are a spirit soul. The mind's a separate entity. It's Maya's agent. It's taken over your life. And me and you only. You think, I'm with my mind. No, you're not with your mind. The mind's taken control over your life. The mind's not yours. The mind's controlling you. There's a big difference. It's kind of like a weird possession, you know. And it's such a weird possession that we think we're the mind. When we start chanting, having a regular practice, or reading regularly, then we start to see that there are some things we do out of duty consciousness. So the mind doesn't have a say in it. So you start to see that, oh, me and the mind are different. You start to have a positive experience of that difference. In a fight and flight reaction, when you can see it, that's a negative experience of the mind's reality. But when you start to have spiritual practice, you're like, I have a positive experience of my spiritual existence. So it's amazing how that works. But yeah, I couldn't emphasize more, James. That's how I have survived all these years that I'm around. I will not, and I'm very lucky. I had friends who would practice that, who would not hesitate in saying the most embarrassing things. And I know, like, I would be like, how can you be like that? But later, I wouldn't say it, but I'd think it. But later, I'd say, like, I'm like that too. So when people dare to bear, like, what's in their heart, they actually inspire others to walk their path. And it's very powerful. So let's start that butterfly effect kind of thing. Let's start that why, where we have honest conversations. Obviously, you may not be able to stand up and speak in front of everybody, but try to speak to one person. So for which it is also important that when you're not having like an intense reaction to something, like something bad's happening, when that's not happening, invest in your good relationships. So make that emotional investment even when things are good. See what I'm saying? You don't have to wait till they go bad to invest. Those are the best kinds, because if you're investing when it's good, nice days, then when it goes bad, you have already invested in it. So it's more natural to speak. So I always say, speak to your mentors on a regular basis. And if they're not available, get on their case. So don't hesitate in that. I do that too. We all should have mentors and guides in our spiritual life, and have genuine relationships with them. Otherwise, we just have a relationship with our phone, really. That's the only real relationship in these days. The sad reality is that. So, Bhagavatam says, Jarayatu analo ya kosha nirginnam. That's a verse in the Bhagavatam. Kapila Dev says, Jarayatu burns analo ya kosha. Kosha means subtle body. Just like fire of digestion digests the food and burns it naturally. Devotional service, rendering positive devotional service to the Supreme Lord, burns your subtle body. It is true it does, but it might take too long. And our subtle bodies are so damaged, we might not have the patience to stick it out. We might freak out like 5 years and then like, this is too much. It is true, Jarayatu Analuya Kosham. It is true, and especially like living in the city and trying to help others, definitely will burn your subtle body away. But sometimes things can get so difficult that you might not have the tolerance to tolerate the input of the subtle body. So to wait for it to dissolve is not very smart. There are people who are like that, like just, pure like souls like that. They're not there yet. They're not there. So it's better to talk, better to consult, better to not to wait. Why carry it another day? There's so much other things to do. Like, what is so precious about our mind that we want to carry with us? You see what I'm saying? It's just, yes, it will dissolve, but don't wait for it, because you might not be around by the time. Like, we might need help now, so we can stick to the process so it eventually dissolves. So our subtle body means the mind, intelligence, ego, all these things and their attachments, they do dissolve, but it takes time. So we need both. More and more, I say, we have to be real about our spiritual lives. Real, practical. So be really practical about it. A regular devotional service, regular reading, regular chanting, but that's there. But you've got to be human too. Got to be human. When problems come, it doesn't have to be related to your thing too. I had a bad day at work. It's driving me crazy. That is also related to your spiritual life. If it is affecting your state of mind, if it's affecting things, that is also related. It doesn't have to be that I can only talk to Mangal Arti about a question I have about the Bhagavad Gita, just to give an example. Right? It could be that I had an argument with somebody on the road and it just drove me crazy. It could be like that. And it doesn't have to be me. It could be like, Jackie reads and chants and I'm reading and chanting. We're both like practicing spiritual life, and now, it's this really bad argument. Talk to somebody who's spiritually progressive at least. Have that relationship. And lend it. Something happened to me 3 days ago. I was trying to drive to a place, like for a festival, a spiritual festival going on. And I don't know why, there's so many people there. And they decided to park all around me in a circle. Block the road, block everything. And every car had parked in a zigzag. I was like, how do I get out of here? It was like stuck. I didn't know what to do. I was like, what the heck? Who would park? Like, are they monkeys? Are they animals? Like, I'm not even kidding. This was the road. I had parked right parallel to it. Knowing that someone would do something stupid, I said, like, I'll just be next to the road, because nobody would park on the road, right? But they did park on the road, and then every direction. All I had is a bit of a valley at the back to drop my car into, and then I couldn't do it myself. So there was this person going by, and I had to ask her, I was like, can you please give me directions? I don't know this person at all, but she'd come for the same program. She spent like I was in a desperate situation, so I asked help. And she helped me. Not only she helped me for 15-20 minutes just to get me figured out how to get out of there. She could have said da 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 whatever. Then my car got stuck on a brick. Like, I was trying to bring it up, it got stuck. So this it can't move. She sat and she tried to pull it out. She's pulling the brick out. It's like a young girl. She helped me so much. And then I tried to pull it out with her, and we both couldn't do it. Then I went in and I called another friend of mine, Paula. I just went, I was like, can you please come help me? So 3 of us are pulling the brake. One person lifted the car. It was just crazy. Sometimes we're stuck like this in life. I ask for help, right? The mind's like that too. We don't hesitate to ask for directions or get help in the situation, but we hesitate with the mind. It's like a private affair. Why? Who said so? Who said so? Reveal your mind and half the battle is won. Vomit it out, don't keep it inside. The trick of the mind is it will make you feel like it's just between you. Don't tell anybody. What will they think about you? Even if they think something, trust me, they won't remember it. Do you remember what you taught 5 days ago? Nobody remembers anything. But the mind will tell you, don't tell anybody. What will they think about you? Do you remember what your parents said to you? Like, even the meanest moments? Maybe 2 sentences? Maybe 3? You don't remember anything. Only the mind tells you that everybody's going to remember. It's so crazy, isn't it?